העולם, אשר קידשנו במצוותיו וציוונו, להדליק נר של חנוכה.
That's what it sounded like Wednesday evening in Ottawa as Rachel Ben-Dayan, the Liberal Member of Parliament for Outremont, led the Liberal Party's Jewish members and those who represent heavily Jewish ridings to recite the blessings over the Hanukkah candles. They did it in person inside the office of Town of Mount Royal MP Anthony Housefather. Housefather's been doing this event every year with his Jewish colleagues since he got elected first in 2015. Now, it used to be called Hanukkah on the Hill, but with Parliament just resuming a week ago and COVID restrictions still in place and social distancing, Housefather and Yara Sachs, the MP for York Centre, decided to open the event up to the world and to do it both in person and on Zoom, which is how over 400 different screens watched the Prime Minister and the opposition leaders and members of the Senate and a Supreme Court judge and Dr. Isaac Bogoch all light candles, and then people at home fulfilled the mitzvah of lighting their own candles too. Despite the big smiles and heartfelt greetings from as far away as Australia and Washington, D.C., no one forgot how antisemitism has impacted the Jewish community of Canada this year.
We had a flare-up of antisemitism this spring that I'd never seen in my lifetime, and people were nervous. I think they see by what happened here tonight that we have had members of all political parties, and all of them were here to celebrate our holiday of Hanukkah with us. And that is a testament to Canada.
I'm Ellen Besner, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like for Thursday, December the 2nd, 2021. Welcome to the CJN Daily, sponsored by Metropia. Most of the Jewish politicians were able to be in the same office since they all had to be vaccinated to come to Ottawa when Parliament resumed last week, including Karina Gould, Melissa Lantsman, Marty Morantz, Julie DeBrusen, Ben-Dayan, and Housefather. There were some Jewish senators and Supreme Court Judge Michael Moldaver and Irwin Cotler, who was just reappointed as Canada's antisemitism czar, which was timely because the Hanukkah event comes a little over 3 months since Anthony Housefather and Rachel Ben-Dayan were on the campaign trail during the last election, and the Montreal members of Parliament had their campaign signs defaced with swastikas and other anti-Semitic graffiti. No one was ever arrested. Meanwhile, Yara Sachs received a death threat after organizing last year's Hanukkah event. Melissa Lantsman also received threats, and Karina Gould got extra security for a while. And Jewish community members from coast to coast experienced a spike in anti-Israel and Jew hatred during the spring hostilities between Israel and Hamas. Not to mention Jews being blamed for COVID and neo-Nazis and other anti-vaxxers using yellow stars to show they oppose lockdowns and mandatory vaccines. Coming up, we'll take you to the event and the leaders' speeches, where they say they have the Jewish communities back, and the Prime Minister vowed to make 2022 the year of a national action plan to fight anti-Semitism. But first, here's what's making news elsewhere in Canada right now.
I'm Dory Eckstein in Toronto, and this is what Jewish Canada sounds like.
After Tuesday's episode, where you heard how Edmonton and Prince Edward Island's Jewish communities marked their milestone menorah lighting ceremonies, we've been hearing from Jewish Canadians around the country how they're showing their Hanukkah pride. Arian Rain from Bowen Island, BC, sent in a photo of the small community's 6-foot-high driftwood menorah, handmade by a local artist, Matthew Vandergiesen. Bowen Island is northwest of Vancouver and has about 15 to 20 Jewish families. Meanwhile, Oded Orgil sent us a photo of his giant inflatable Hanukkah bear on the lawn of his home in Mono, Ontario. We love to hear from you, so keep sharing these lovely traditions with the CJN Daily. And now to the ceremony in Ottawa on Parliament Hill. First up is Anthony Housefather, who says despite a troubling year, he sees the turnout as proof Canada is one of the best countries for Jews.
And I am just so thankful. So thank you to my ancestors that came here and who, 125 years ago, were living in tenements along St. Lawrence Boulevard in Montreal. And they would never have imagined that their great-great-grandson would be a member of Parliament, sitting with all of the people that are here tonight. And only in a country like Canada could this happen.
Yara Sachs, who helped organize it, says the event should encourage Jewish people not to be afraid to be openly Jewish at Hanukkah or other times of the year.
Traditionally, Hanukkah candles used to be lit outdoors,
outside our front doors. Over the centuries, fear of persecution took the Hanukkah candles inside. And in recent times, communities have brought them out again. We see them thanks to Chabad in many cities all across the world. And we've introduced the custom of sharing our light in places that we never thought possible. Not only in our windows, but we celebrate the festival of lights in every corner of every community. Hanukkah candles are the light Judaism brings into the world when we are unafraid to announce our identity in public and to live by our values, our principles, and fight when necessary alongside our friends for our freedom. We cannot and should not have to do this alone, and it's clear by tonight that we aren't.
For his part, Prime Minister Justin Trudeau was on Parliament Hill, but in another location. He lit the candles on a small menorah that had been handmade by two local Ottawa girls, Mimi and Libby.
In the last few years, and particularly this spring, Canada has seen a frightening rise in hate-motivated crimes against the Jewish community. It's absolutely unacceptable. There is no place for anti-Semitism in Canada. That's why this summer we convened the National Summit on Anti-Semitism. It was a chance to listen and, more importantly, to recommit ourselves to action. We hear the Jewish community's requests loud and clear, and we will continue taking real steps forward together. Already, we've quadrupled funding for security for synagogues, Jewish schools, and community centers in the last few years. At the same time, we've listed more far-right extremist groups as terrorist entities. This is not only about being clear that these groups have no place in our society, it's also about helping police stop their dangerous activities. To take the next step in the fight against anti-Semitism and all forms of hate, we will develop a national action plan on combating hate within the coming year. And to keep building on all the work we've already done, just this week, we renewed Irwin Cotler's appointment as Canada's Special Envoy on preserving Holocaust remembrance and combating anti-Semitism. I've always been very clear. Our government stands and will continue to stand as a staunch ally and friend of Israel. The ties between us run deep, and that's something to keep building on. And as we do, we'll continue to support lasting peace and security in the region.
Conservative leader Erin O'Toole was also on Zoom with an elaborate menorah.
During this challenging time, the Canadian Jewish community demonstrated this unity and strength once again. You made sure that seniors and those in need across this country were not left behind. You stepped up for everyone in this country, and for that, we are grateful. It shows the best of Canada, working together for a common cause. Canada also needs to stand up for our Jewish community, especially as the pandemic has led to an increase in anti-Semitism, here at home, sadly, and around the world. Conservatives, as the official opposition, will always be a home for all those who believe in religious freedom, principled foreign policy, a determined stand against intolerance, and a strong commitment to our friend and ally Israel. Tonight, as we light the menorah, let us remember the courage and strength of the Jewish people throughout history.
Next came the leader of the Bloc Québécois, Yves-François Blanchet, but he didn't speak in English. So we'll go on to Jagmeet Singh, the leader of the New Democratic Party.
We have seen the incredible resilience of the Jewish community, and I want you to know you can count on New Democrats as allies to defend and to support the Jewish community against the rise of hate. I've always said that hate is like a fire, it spreads, consuming all. We all have a collective responsibility to stand against hate. And whenever hate is allowed to take hold against any one community based on their religion or their faith or where they come from, it will spread to consume all. And so in great solidarity, I commit to you to fight anti-Semitism wherever it rears its head.
Elizabeth May of the Greens is one of two sitting MPs for that party, and she expressed her love for all her colleagues and acknowledged that things have been a bit dysfunctional for her own party lately. Now, this National Festival of Lights took place one night after the former Green Party leader, Annamie Paul, who is Jewish, gave her first public talk about why she resigned after the election in September, amidst accusations of racism and antisemitism that she suffered from her own organization. Paul was not at this event. You'll recall one of the Green MPs, Janika Atwin of Fredericton, crossed the floor to join the Liberals in June after tweeting that Israel was an apartheid state, but she later walked her public comments back a bit and pledged to learn. Atwin actually did take part in a menorah lighting ceremony earlier this week in Yara Sachs's Ottawa office. And that's what Jewish Canada sounds like for this episode of the CJN Daily. Back in Toronto now, and sponsored by, as usual, Metropia. Integrity, community, quality, and customer care. Today's listener shout-out goes to Brian Epstein. He used to live in Sydney, Nova Scotia, and he saw the photo of our print-at-home newspaper of me outside the Sons of Israel synagogue, where he used to attend. Now he's in Toronto. And we'll end the episode with a little contest for you. The Prime Minister and all the other party leaders tried their best to correctly send greetings in Hebrew. Some nailed it, and others, well, not so much, but you can decide who said it best. So the audio starts with the Prime Minister, then Erin O'Toole, then Yves-François Blanchet of the Bloc, then Jagmeet Singh of the NDP, and finally Elizabeth May.
Happy Hanukkah, everyone. Chag Hanukkah Sameach.
Happy Hanukkah, Chag Sameach.
Joyeux Hanukkah.
Chag Sameach. Happy Hanukkah.
Hanukkah Sameach, and I am just overjoyed to be with you on the fourth night of Hanukkah.